So financial literacy
Yes.
is something that's very hot right now. Everybody's talking about it. What it is, why it's important.
Financial literacy. That's a complicated question, but I'll probably take it from the top. I'll give anybody that's listening right now the secrets that you'll find in every book. It's in three parts.
Mhm,
You increase your income, you decrease your expenses, and you invest the difference.
mhm,
Let me explain. You increase your income wherever you get a chance to, as far as your job, multiple, a side hustle, whatever that's going to bring more money into your household. That's how you increase your income. On top of that, being actually present, alert, and focused at your job to be able to earn a promotion, a raise, so on and so forth, looking for opportunities. The second, decrease your expenses, which is the problem for a lot of people, especially in the West.
mhm.
The idea is you're decreasing all these unintentional expenses, things that are just populating. I've heard multiple people that have like all the apps instead of just one or two apps. Like hey, I have Disney Plus. They have Disney Plus, Hulu, HBO Max, Amazon Prime. So all of that adds back up to basically the cost of cable all over again, or even way more than cable now. So
Yeah.
you're seeing people just pile on unnecessary expenses, and if you start cutting down those expenses to what you really love, you'll find that you'll have more money to invest the difference. In that category, which is part three, investing the difference, the third part. The third part, you invest the difference within yourself, either through your education or through your networks, being your friends and also the person that you end up in a relationship with or get married to. Those are the primary relationships that you need to foster and grow in order for you to become wealthy. Second, you invest in your retirement accounts or even the overall stock market. That's another position you could actually invest in. You invest in actually owning a home. A lot of people are saying, "Oh yeah, I want to rent because somebody online told me that I should rent." No, everybody should be pushing towards home ownership because that's an access to wealth. And
Mhm,
on top of that, the final piece, which is not available for everyone because it's not in everybody's wheelhouse, is owning or building a small business.
mhm.
If you build a small business, you could create more cash revenue for yourself. So these are the top three things you'll find in every book that I've read for the last 10 years. I could tell you this is not the most this is not the most like expansive thing about personal finance, but this is all three. You increase your income, you decrease your expenses, and you invest the difference. That's it.
Yeah,
So
I like the fact that you made it very simple, So even a child can understand that. Increase your income. You said, you can have a raise at your job, maybe have a second job. Um, then decrease your expenses. Talk about all these, subscriptions, all these apps you're using. Um, so how do you do budgeting? How do you like track your expenses? Because most
how
people, like you said, when they increase their income, actually they increase their expenses. They don't decrease.
Yeah, they call that lifestyle creep. And I guess there's always like these philosophies behind personal finance that just ends up being part of the wording.
Mm,
So there's this idea of this other term called hedonic treadmill. I always thought this was the funniest thing I ever heard because if you have a big house,
mhm.
it necessitates that you have a big TV, which necessitates that you have bigger furniture. You can't have a nice house with a big TV without the nice furniture, and then the car that's inside in front of the house, it has
Mhm,
to be nicer too. So
mhm,
people end up lifestyle creeping themselves into more and more debt a long term for the rest of their lives. On
mhm,
average, a single person could be paying as much as $300,000 worth of interest in their lifetime, but a family over the course of 40, 50 years will be paying at least $500,000 of interest. We have the numbers, we have the data, we've seen it. And the reason why is because people are not tracking their expenses. You
mhm.
could literally do this for free now, give or take any different app like mint.com. It's an app by Intuit. It's pretty much free. It's
How,
well, I
how
would
you
say it's pretty much, it's
how you
actually free.
how you call the app?
Mint.com. Mint.
Mint.com.
Yes, mint, mint.com. And there's other apps like Empower. People typically want to do it on, they could even write it down like pen and paper, or could even use Microsoft Excel to
Excel.
do their budget. But there's always a way that you need to track because what is not measured does not grow. And if you don't know exactly where the leaks are, how can you actually fix it?
Right.
So whenever somebody asks me those questions, like my friends, my family's like, "Hey, what about my personal finance? When can I invest money?" I'm like, "Well, how much money do you spend per month?" They don't know. How much money do you spend per year? They have no idea. And usually most people it's almost like they under calibrate what that is. Instead of maybe 60,000, they're like, well, I might spend $40,000. They'll say something like that, but they have 20,000 that they're actually spending more than they're not accounting for. On top of that, then you ask them, okay, so you don't know your expenses, and that's fair. Not everybody knows what their expenses are. However, how much do you bring in? And then everybody's like, I don't know. Like, how do you? It's like, how do you not know? Like, how did you miss that point? First, you say you know what you make at work, but some people really don't. They started off years ago making a certain amount, but they stopped looking at it at all. They know that they get a raise, but they spend most of their raise because, hey, money comes in, money goes out. And we're seeing that with inflation right now. No matter what the raise you're getting, if you're not learning to keep your money, you're losing out on actually building wealth in your lifetime.
Wow. Yeah, thank you for those good tips. Mint, Microsoft Excel, you can really track your expenses. Yeah, you can see a lot of things happening there. Maybe now you have your income up, you managing your spending, then you can do some saving and you can invest. So how to invest, can you talk about investing a little bit?
All right. The investing is actually the trickiest part because that's the sexiest term out right now. Everybody wants to invest. Everybody wants to make a certain amount of money by the time they reach I don't know, by the time they reach tomorrow, which is a problem because that's not how investing works. Investing itself is a formula. Basically, wealth is the amount of your total contributions times your rate of return times the time that you put in for it. So the length of which that you have your investments cooking for. So in essence, you have to put in a lot of effort, a lot of contributions upfront to stack it up to actually have a good rate of return. And from that rate of return, you go into allowing it to process over time. The historical average of the stock market in the US is 8%. So sometimes they'll say 7 to 9%. Some people say 7 to 10%. But 9 times out of 10, when you do the average down the middle, it comes down to around 8% a year. So some years will be up, some years will be down. But the idea is that you keep investing using dollar cost averaging over and over and over again into any of these other means that I'm getting into. But ultimately, you have to allow it to grow for the totality of maybe 30 to 40 years in order for you to see the true wealth calcification impact. If you not do that, for example, a lot of people jumped into stock market in 2021 at the very end and saw that they lost a lot of money. Why? Because they only heard about this thing being hot right now, but so they ended up buying high and watching everything kind of melt away. And then they sell low, which is the opposite of what you're supposed to do when you're investing. You're supposed to buy low and sell high. When things are actually at their worst, that's the time if you have the extra cash to say, you know what, I use all these companies. I use like this, something like Amazon, something like Google, whatever it is. I like these companies. Why not invest in them while the market is down? That's the whole point. You buy things when they're on sale, and then you ride the wave with them all the way back up again. Never bet against human productivity and labor. That's something that Warren Buffett says all the time, because the idea is that every time the market recedes, there's always going to be an opportunity for you to jump in so you could ride the wave back up again. For the average American person, the first thing you need to consider is that you might already be investing. And your investments goes into your employer sponsored plans, your 401ks, your 403bs, 457bs. They exist as your job, and they're actually pegged to the market itself. So you don't have to go looking to invest 9 times out of 10. You're better off just utilizing those employer sponsored plans because they also offered an added benefit, and that benefit is tax reduction. That means for every dollar that you put into your 401k, IRA, and HSA, it would reduce your taxable income, which therefore reduces your potential tax liability. So that's another bonus that you get. On top of that, majority of employer-sponsored plans offer a matching contribution. That means a $1-to-1, 100% match. You cannot get that anywhere else. There's no place in the world where I give you $1, somebody gives you another dollar just because it exists. Right. And a lot of people leave that on the table to the tune of around $3,000 per year. Yeah, that don't sound like a lot for now, but over time, if that $3,000 is invested in the market over a good 30 years, it could total as much as $300,000 or even $400,000, depending how the market is doing. So you leaving $3,000 every year on the table is actually costing you $400,000. So the first thing I'd say is double down, make sure you read your employee handbook, figure out what your investments are already in your 401k, IRA, and HSA. And then you get to the point where you say, you know what, if I have extra now, I could play around with maybe 15% of the extra funds I have if you want to buy something like the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index. I bring up ETFs, that's an ETF. I bring that up because most people try to stock pick. And what ends up happening, especially in stock pickers, they lose. In the totality of the year, majority of stock pickers always lose. And it's just the way it is, called the reversion to the mean. Some years going to look really good, but then next year you go really down. However, if you want to get into investing without actually doing the qualitative or quantitative analysis and all the extra little legwork to figure out why to invest in this company and that company, you can actually invest in a bracket fund or a box fund. This like super like you going down the entire, instead of buying one thing at the store, you buy the entire store. Those are ETFs.
Those are index funds.
Yes, index fund, ETFs. Well, it's an ETF pegged to the index fund. Okay. The index fund is just your S&P 500, your Dow, your NASDAQ. Those are just measuring index funds where they're basically indices in which they're calculating a certain amount of like productivity throughout those companies. That's the easiest way I could say it. For S&P 500 is 500 companies. Think about it that way, that they're tracking the top performing 500 companies. And as they go up and down, in totality, in aggregate, that's what you're seeing. So I think the Dow is like 2,000. I want to say it's 2,000 companies that they're tracking, but everything else is kind of similar in that vein. So ultimately, the ETF is pegged to the S&P 500. That's the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index, and you don't have to do all the stock picking. Instead, you're just buying the fund and you riding the wave with human productivity.
Mm. Wow.
It was literally created for that. The guy that created it, I want to say he created Vanguard. I forget his actual name, but he created it because he felt that the average American was being left out of investment. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they were making mistakes by picking different stocks and they had no understanding about. So instead, he wanted to bracket those things in, create almost like a less fee structure to give people a better chance of really building wealth over time.
Wow. And those ETFs, they have good rate of return?
Yeah, typically ETFs are tagged to the market. So it's not about like one or two things that you're picking as far as rate of return, as much more that you're as the market goes up and down, you're with the market.
Right.
It's as easy as possible. So if the market is down, let's say this year, and you basically decide to buy into the market at a low, let's say if it was selling for $50, right? And then you just ride the wave for the next 20, 30 years, you find that $50 will end up being as much as $2,000 in the long run. So what you do, you basically buy into a total market, right? Instead of buying into just one fund, one company, one business, because if that one business goes down, you go down with it.